It was my first year at college. I'd just finished settling into my room, and my folks had just departed. Later that same day, my dorm mate arrived. Straight away, I knew this was the most socially awkward individual I'd ever come across. I introduced myself as Luke, extending my hand for a handshake. He hesitated, glanced at my hand as if he wasn't sure what it was, then chuckled and gave me a floppy, lifeless handshake. I had to ask for his name since he hadn't told me. He said his name is Harvey. I attempted small talk, but he responded with only a yes or no answer, occasionally tossing in an uneasy laugh or grin. Within minutes, we both just sat on our beds, engrossed in our laptops, not communicating. I was frustrated and was already considering requesting a new roommate. Anyone would be better off than Harvey, I thought. I initially thought Harvey was just a supremely awkward guy, but I soon discovered he was much more than that. I met some of the other guys on my floor, and they seemed alright, which was a relief. I returned to my dorm after exploring the campus on the first evening to find Harvey in the exact same position I'd left him. I greeted him. "Hey, Harvey," and as expected, he didn't respond. It was 9:30 p.m. With nothing else to do, I switched off my side lamp and tried to sleep. Falling asleep was not easy though, as Harvey was on his laptop till 3 in the morning. The moment he finally shut his laptop, I fell asleep quickly, but was jolted awake within the hour. The blinds in our room had been opened, allowing the moonlight to illuminate everything, including Harvey sitting on the edge of his bed, staring at me. I sat up, rubbed my eyes and asked, "Harvey, what the hell are you doing?" He whispered back a quick apology and lay down. The next morning, I woke up to find Harvey had already left the room. It felt like the first time he had ventured outside. The first Saturday of the year meant orientation and all the campus festivities. During the orientation, as my group was passing the campus gardens, I overheard a couple of students ahead of me asking, "What is that guy doing in there?" I followed their gaze. It was Harvey, sitting in the soil behind a cluster of shrubs, running his hand over a tree's bark. The orientation leader hadn't noticed, otherwise I'm sure she would have intervened. I didn't say anything. Instead, I casually mentioned to the students who had noticed Harvey that he was my roommate, hoping to strike up a conversation and potentially making some friends. They sympathetically apologized. We weren't sure if we should laugh, but we ended up doing so anyway. I made friends with those two, and we decided to hang out that night. I also found out that the school had arranged a different roommate for me. Things seemed to be looking up rapidly. When I returned to my room after meeting up with my new friends, Harvey was seated on the desk chair, facing the door. I greeted him, but he responded with a curt, "Nothing." I sat on my bed, opened my laptop and realized I had forgotten to lock it. All of my emails had been opened, and folders I hadn't touched were wide open. It was clear that Harvey had snooped through my laptop. When confronted, he immediately and loudly denied it, but it was evident he was lying. This peculiar guy had gone through my laptop while I was out. I didn't push the issue though. As I got ready for bed, I noticed my clothes had been rearranged. I didn't make a fuss, knowing that I would be out by there tomorrow. I woke up to the sound of a zipper in the middle of the night. Harvey was rummaging through my bag on the floor. I confronted him, and he claimed he thought I had his toothbrush. It was his most coherent response to date, yet I knew he was lying. There was definitely something off about him. The next day, I met my new roommate in the same building. It was a smooth transition, and by Sunday night, we were chatting amicably before turning in. Yet, for the third night in a row, I woke up to a strange noise. It was a soft, irregular, clicking noise. Getting up to investigate, I realized the sound was coming from the other side of the door. I peered through the peephole and could make out someone outside the door, their head lowered. The tiny clicking noises were the sound of someone fiddling with the doorknob, trying to unlock the door. I immediately called campus security and they arrived within minutes. It was only when they had Harvey in cuffs that I opened the door. I explained the situation to them, that my former roommate had been rummaging through my stuff, leading to my room change, only for him to try breaking into my new dorm. They took him away and I never saw Harvey again. He was either suspended or expelled, but my college years continued normally. Nevertheless, the eerie experience with Harvey would occasionally resurface in my mind. When my father died, he bequeathed me with not just his cherished sailing boat, the Voyager 2200, but also his fondness for open sea fishing. The Voyager had a cozy cabin which was suitable for a few nights' stay out on the sea. I would usually take it for deep sea fishing off the coast of Maine, sailing a reasonable distance out, and then idling, letting the sea and my bait do the rest. On one such trip, my brother-in-law, Alex, and I set sail on a Thursday, planning to spend the night and the whole of Friday fishing, returning home by Saturday. So we sailed deep into the sea, picked our spot, cast our lines, and settled in with a radio and a cooler full of chilled beers to enjoy our time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, leaving nothing but its vibrant hues to paint the sky, we sat on the deck, soaking in the breathtaking sight. Little did we know, this tranquil moment was the last bit of peace we would experience that night. With the sky completely engulfed by darkness, we gathered our gear, retiring to the cabin to play a few rounds of poker and munch on sandwiches. Suddenly, Alex shushed me, signaling me to listen. Over the sound of our laughter and the waves hitting the boat, we heard the distant hum of a boat engine. We stepped out of the cabin, scanning the horizon, but the darkness, unaided by the moon, limited our visibility to no more than 50 feet ahead. Yet the sound of motor was unmistakable. Someone was out there, lights off in complete darkness. Our cabin lights were on, enough for any vessel to spot us and steer clear. Yet this boat seemed to be circling us. The sound grew fainter, then louder, then stopped altogether. The silence that followed was unsettling. Alex suggested that we might be in some kind of danger, that we were being observed. He wanted me to use the spotlight to locate the other boat. I was reluctant, thinking it was intrusive, but eventually I gave in to his persistent requests. Before turning on the spotlight, I drove our boat away from the direction of the last heard engine sound, maybe as a precautionary measure, or perhaps because I was also starting to feel a bit uneasy. After some time, I killed the motor, and we resumed our game inside the cabin, but we were barely seated when we heard it again. The boat engine. This time, it was closer, softer, as if someone was approaching us, stealthily. We rushed outside. As we did, the motor sound abruptly ceased. We decided to turn on the spotlight. I adjusted the boat slightly to aim the light at the source of the sound. The strong beam of light pierced the darkness, revealing a boat floating uncomfortably close to us. In a panic, I turned off the spotlight, told Alex to switch off the cabin lights, and I floored the boat away from there. I must have driven for about 10 minutes before feeling safe enough to slow down. We stayed on deck for a while, listening, watching. When we felt it was safe, we finally turned in for the night. But the night wasn't done with us yet. I woke up to a knocking sound, seemingly coming from above the cabin. I nudged Alex awake and pointed to the ceiling. We both heard it, the unmistakable thumping. I stepped out onto the deck and found two men, one on the deck of my boat and the other on the boat bobbing next to ours. The man on the boat raised his hands and insisted they meant no harm. He said they were low on fuel and needed help. As he talked, he moved down from the bow of the boat to the deck. He was a towering figure. His presence alone instilled a sense of fear. He extended his hand towards me, expecting a handshake. Instinct took over. Instead of shaking his hand, I shoved him overboard with all my might. I sprinted to the controls, shouting at Alex to keep the men from climbing back on board. With my heart pounding in my chest, I navigated us away from there, leaving the strangers behind in the pitch-black night. We didn't stop until we reached the safety of the shore. We decided to stay on the boat for the remainder of the night and docked at the harbor. The next day, we packed up and headed home, relieved but deeply disturbed. The ocean can be a beautiful but foreboding place, especially in the dark, and we learned that the hard way. Those men may have had benign intentions, but their bad behavior suggested otherwise. I don't know what could have happened if we hadn't acted quickly, but I shudder to think about it. One thing was for sure. Our fishing trip had taken a dramatic turn we would never forget. I used to be a part of the Fairfield School District in California during my middle and high school years. It was a well-off district with an abundance of opportunities for the students. I was a part of the drama club, and we would embark on 1 or 2 optional field trips every year. In the particular year in question, I was a junior, and we set off on a journey to Lake Sierra Retreat Center in Oregon. The bus ride was a lengthy one. I was with my friend Jasper, who was to be my roommate for the trip. As we arrived, we could tell that the place was not exactly bustling. It was December, hence quite chilly up there. The trip was scheduled for 4 days, supervised by 5 chaperones. They didn't tail us all the time, but we were required to inform them about the activities we planned on undertaking. The first day was packed with excitement. Jasper and I, along with 2 other girls we were good friends with, engaged in ziplining, hiking, and even some swimming. After a hearty dinner, we retreated to our room for some downtime. Unfortunately, all students couldn't secure rooms next to each other. Our room was on the ground level with a wide glass door that overlooked the forest at the edge of the property. After spending some time outside, we returned to our room around 10 o'clock, leaving the blinds open to enjoy the silvery moonlight dancing upon the trees. What we didn't realize was that our peace was about to be shattered. After an hour of tossing and turning in our beds, trying to find a comfortable spot, Jasper, whose bed was nearer to the door, let out a yell. My heart pounded as I turned to look at the door. What I saw could have been a still from a horror movie. A haggard, tall, elderly man with stringy hair was standing on the other side of the door, his hands pressed against the glass as he seemed to strain to get a better look inside. As abruptly as he appeared, he vanished, walking away into the darkness. Jasper and I mustered the courage to go outside after him, but there was no sign of the man anywhere. The concrete path that ran past each room was deserted, and the surrounding grass and forest area were empty. We knew we hadn't been hallucinating because we both saw the man. The following day, we didn't inform the chaperones but shared the experience with the 2 girls we were friendly with. As the second night approached, after another day filled with activities, we made sure to shut the blinds as we entered our room from the back door. Jasper fell asleep before I did, and I followed suit about half an hour later. I awoke in the middle of the night, uncertain about what had disturbed my sleep. All I knew was that something felt wrong. Whispering Jasper's name, I tried to check if he was awake, but there was no reply. Looking towards his bed out of instinct, my heart leaped into my throat as I realized my view was obstructed. Peering over me was the tall elderly man. He took a few steps back, uttered, "Your back door was unlocked," then turned and left. Fear had me frozen in place. After I had recounted the event to Jasper, we locked the door, closed the blinds again, and we agreed to stay awake for the rest of the night. It was already around 4 in the morning, so we wouldn't lose much sleep. At 8 o'clock, we headed to the dining hall for breakfast. Upon our return, we saw the old man through the glass of the neighboring room. He was sitting on the bed, hands folded, sitting up straight, his gaze fixed on our room. We dashed to the front desk in the main building to report him to the staff instead of our chaperones. The reaction from the staff was confusing. They didn't seem to know how to handle the situation. Finally, after some persuasion, they agreed to come to the man's room with us. They found the man sitting in the same position along with an older woman sitting on the other bed, staring blankly at them as they entered. It appeared that the man had a mental illness, and there was something equally unsettling about the woman. They weren't the kind of people you'd expect to encounter at a family-friendly retreat, but the staff wouldn't eject them as we'd hoped. So we decided to inform our chaperones. Long story short, after a heated debate between the chaperones and the staff, the trip was cut short and we all returned home. Jasper and I were just relieved to leave that place behind.
In the third week of my job as a night shift attendant at the city morgue, a position I had taken to pay my bills while in medical school, I had grown accustomed to the peaceful silence of the place. The concept of being surrounded by death didn't faze me. Instead, I found a calm conducive to my late-night study sessions. But everything changed on the night of the 14th. The evening was like any other, the antiseptic scent of formaldehyde permeating the space, and the only audible sound was the soft hum of the refrigeration units, maintaining the cold necessary for preserving the dead. Nestled in a secluded corner, I was engrossed in my anatomy textbook when the overhead lights flickered momentarily. I glanced up, attributing it to the building's aging electrical system. The lights stabilized soon after, and I shrugged it off, returning to my book. It wasn't long after that a strange, soft noise drew my attention away from my studies. It was a shuffling sound, akin to something being dragged laboriously across the floor. I froze, the textbook slipping from my numb fingers. My ears strained, attempting to discern the source of the sound. It was emanating from the main cold storage room. Attempting to reassure myself that it was probably a rodent or some equipment that had somehow gotten loose, I picked up the flashlight from the desk. I inched towards the cold storage room door and pushed it open, the beam of the flashlight cutting through the dimly lit space. The flickering overhead lights cast long, ghostly shadows, but the cursory glance confirmed that everything seemed as it should be. Each gleaming stainless steel drawer was securely closed. The room was seemingly devoid of any other presence, save for the preserved cadavers and myself. The monotonous hum of cooling units was significantly more pronounced here. I was about to attribute the mysterious noise to this when I heard it again. This time, the sound was much clearer. A distinct dragging sound followed by a dull thud, and it was unmistakably coming from the far corner of the room. My heart hammered in my chest as I moved warily towards the source of the sound. The beam of my flashlight landed on the last drawer, and I felt my grip on the flashlight slacken in shock. The drawer was slightly ajar, a clear violation of the morgue's protocols. Steeling myself, I advanced to push it back in. As I neared, a wave of dread washed over me, raising goosebumps on my skin. I was about to shut the drawer when it slid out further. I recoiled, stumbling over my own feet and landing unceremoniously on the chilly floors. Scrambling backwards, my eyes widened as the body bag slid out of the drawer and dropped onto the floor with an ominous thud. The surge of panic gripped me, but I forced myself to regain my composure. The body must have been improperly stored. With trembling hands, I unzipped the bag to check the body for potential damage. The sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. The body, an elderly man I checked in earlier that evening, lay as lifeless as expected. However, something was terribly amiss. His right arm was extended, his fingers curled as if he had been the one tugging the body bag out of the drawer. My mind raced for a logical explanation. The stiffening of the body muscle of dead people couldn't account for such movement, and the morgue was completely deserted. I quickly rezipped the bag and, with great effort, hoisted it back into the drawer, making sure it was firmly locked this time. The rest of the night passed in a blur. The dragging sound didn't reoccur, but the sense of unease persisted. When dawn finally broke, I reported the incident to the head coroner, but he dismissed it as a figment of my overactive imagination, fueled by the stress and late-night studies. I still worked the night shift, and for the most part, it is as quiet as it used to be. However, I can't shake off the feeling of being watched, particularly when I walk past the last drawer in the cold storage room. There was something else in the room with me that night, something I couldn't explain. The morgue's cold, sterile environment has taken on a new, chilling layer of mystery, and I can't help but wonder what secrets the dead might be trying to tell me.